Rain hit the windshield hard, like it was trying to wake me up. I sat there in my truck outside the auto shop, engine off, watching the wipers drag across the glass like they were just as tired as I felt. It was my 50th birthday. Not that anyone remembered. Not Sharon, not the kids, not even my brother Kyle, the same guy I've bailed out more times than I care to admit. 12 years I've worked in that shop. Same parking spot, same thermos, same busted lunch bag. Sharon's been packing for me since the twins were in kindergarten. I reached over and grabbed it. Leftovers again, no card, no note. Just some cold mac and cheese in a plastic container that was probably from 2 nights ago. I pulled out my phone for the 20th time that morning. Nothing, no calls, no texts, just a couple of junk emails and one notification. Facebook. I opened it, there it was. Kyle grinning in a booth at some steakhouse with mom and dad, holding up a glass like he'd just cured cancer. Celebrating the big promotion, the caption said. I stared at that photo like it had smacked me in the face. Steakhouse, smiles, dad in one of his good shirts, mom with her big hoop earrings. I scrolled down and saw the timestamp. Last night. That old memory hit me right in the gut. I was maybe 10, sitting in the living room in a hand-me-down button-up shirt, waiting for Dad to take me out to dinner like he said he would. Mom was in the kitchen, acting like nothing was wrong. Kyle had a baseball game that night. Dad forgot. Again. Quick note, before we go further, where are you watching from today? I look down at my hands, grease under the nails, calluses so thick I barely feel heat anymore. That's what years of engine work will do. I set the lunch bag down and just stared at it. Couldn't even smell anything from it. No sign this day meant anything to anybody but me. Then I opened Facebook again, looked at that photo of Kyle, saw all the comments. So proud of you. You're killing it, man. Nothing on my wall, not a single happy birthday. I don't know what shifted exactly, but something did. Right then, right there in that truck. I wasn't going to let this be another year where I got passed over like a damn extra in my own life. I turned the key in the ignition, engine groaning to life. Time to go home, not to be seen, to be done waiting. I pulled into the driveway and killed the engine. The house was lit up, warm on the outside, but I knew well what was waiting in there, same as always. I walked in, dropped my keys in the bowl by the door, and the smell of reheated takeout hit me. Sharon's voice floated from the living room, sharp and fast, talking to her sister on speakerphone. I sat at the kitchen table, elbows pressed into the laminate, staring at the wood grain like it owed me something. No happy birthday. No, how was your day? Just her laughing in the next room about something her sister's kid did at school. I could hear the kids upstairs too, muffled shouts from Xbox, some TikTok audio blaring every couple of minutes. They were alive and loud, just not for me. Not one of them had stepped out of their caves to look at me. I pulled out my phone again. Nothing. Screen as empty as it had been that morning. I flipped over to the bank app, thumb hovering like I shouldn't do it, like checking it made me guilty of something. Then the number popped up clear as day. $112,938.27. Years of overtime. Years of Sharon telling me, we'll take a vacation next summer. Years of pushing through holidays and birthdays at the shop. And for what? For them to forget me in my own house? I leaned back in the chair, my eyes catching the picture frame on the wall. Family photo at Cannon Beach from 7 years ago. That was our last real trip. Sharon had been thinner, smiling wide. The kids were little then, still wanted to hold my hand. That guy in the photo wasn't me anymore. I thought about the Chevelle, black 69 SS. Saw it online weeks ago, parked at some lot in Renton, chrome shining even through a grainy photo. I'd saved the listing like some stupid teenager saving pictures of girls he knew he'd never talk to. Except this wasn't a girl. This was a machine, and it was waiting for someone with the guts to take it. I stared at the phone, heart kicking harder now. Screw it. I pulled up the listing and hit the number. My thumb shook, but not from fear, from adrenaline. The line clicked. "Yeah, Mitch here," a guy said. "Still got the Chevelle?" I asked. My voice came out flat, steady, like I already knew the answer. "Yeah, it's here. You interested?" From the living room, Sharon laughed loud, almost shrill, some joke about her sister's husband. I sat there listening to it while holding the phone to my ear, and something just snapped in me. I'll be there tonight, I told him. All right, man, I'll keep it pulled up front, he said. I hung up. No second thoughts, no hesitation. The chair screeched against the tile as I stood. Sharon's voice carried into the kitchen. Hold on, let me grab some water, she told her sister. She didn't even look at me as she walked past. Not a glance, not a word. Just filled her glass and headed back into the living room, still talking. I grabbed my keys from the bowl and slid my wallet out of my back pocket. Cash card, license, all ready. My lunch bag from earlier still sat on the counter, unopened. I left it there. I walked out the door without saying a damn thing. The slam of it behind me was the loudest sound anyone in that house had heard from me all day. I pulled into the dealership lot just as the sky turned a deep blue, streetlights flicking on one by one like they were waking up for the night shift. The place was half dark, most of the office lights already shut off, just a couple left, glowing inside. Felt like walking into a church after hours, quiet, empty, but still holding something sacred. Mitch came out from behind a side door, wiping his hands on a rag. Late 30s maybe, jeans and a Seahawks hoodie, looked surprised I even showed up. "You're the guy who called about the Chevelle?" he asked. "That's me." He motioned for me to follow, and we walked across the lot. Gravel crunched under my boots. I kept my eyes forward, but my heart picked up the closer we got. There it was, tucked in the last row, angled just right under a flickering overhead light like it was posing. Jet black, chrome trim that looked sharp enough to slice skin. Spotless. She wasn't just some car, she was art. "She's a beast," Mitch said, patting the roof. 4-speed, rebuilt engine, custom interior. You won't find one cleaner unless you go to Barrett-Jackson. I didn't say anything, just walked a slow circle around her, taking it all in. My reflection stared back from the paint like it was asking who the hell I thought I was. I didn't even blink. "You want to take it for a spin?" Mitch asked. I shook my head. "Don't need to. I'll take it." He paused. "You serious?" I pulled the envelope from my jacket and handed it over. 70 grand in neat stacks. His eyebrows hit the ceiling. "Dead serious," I said. Mitch gave a low whistle. "All right then. Let's do some paperwork." We headed into his office, the kind with plastic chairs and posters of lifted trucks on the wall. He flipped through the forms while I filled in my info, hands steady the whole time. He looked at me like he was trying to figure me out, but I didn't offer anything. "Not a lot of guys drop that kind of cash without a test drive," he said. "Not a lot of guys work 12-hour shifts for 20 years and never buy themselves a damn thing." He nodded like he understood, but I could tell he didn't. Not really. Still, he took my old F-150 keys without comment when I handed them over. Once the papers were signed, he held the Chevelle's keys out to me. Black leather fob, red stitching, sharp in my palm. "Drive safe, man," he said. I didn't answer, just walked out. The door slammed behind me, and I dropped into the driver's seat like I'd done it 1,000 times. The interior smelled like fresh polish and old muscle, leather, oil, and something that felt like freedom. I turned the key, and the engine fired up like thunder. The rumble hit my chest and settled deep. Felt like waking up for the first time in years. I rolled down the windows and backed out of the lot slow. Mitch stood by the door, watching, arms crossed. I pulled onto the road and opened her up. The engine roared, heads turned. I didn't care who saw me. For once I wanted to be seen. Wind rushed through the cabin, the kind that made your eyes sting if you smiled too hard. And I was smiling, big, wide, like an idiot. For the first time in years, I wasn't driving home in a truck that screamed duty and bills and errands. I was behind the wheel of something mine, and I wasn't asking anyone's permission. I pulled the Chevelle into the driveway just as the sun started dipping, the engine growling loud enough to make a couple neighbors peek through their curtains. I revved it once, on purpose, just to make sure every head on the block turned. Let them see. Let them hear. This was mine. The curtains in my own house shifted, a shadow passing across. They knew I was here. I let the engine idle for a few extra seconds before killing it, just to feel the weight of silence drop when the roar died. In one hand, I grabbed a 6-pack. In the other, a store-bought cake with white frosting and cheap red letters. "Happy 50th, Jack." From Jack. My handwriting on the box's order slip, not anyone else's. I opened the door, stepped inside, and there they were. Sharon at the end of the table, arms crossed. The kids on either side, restless, looking at anything but me. Kyle leaning back in a chair like he owned the place. And Mom and Dad, front and center, eyes on me. The whole jury. Dad smirked, tilted his chin toward the door. "So, this is your midlife crisis car?" I didn't answer. Just walked in slow, heavy boots on the tile and set the six-pack on the table with a thud. Then I placed the cake down right in the middle, spun the box so they could read the message. Sharon's face flushed. She fidgeted with her sweater sleeve, then forced a little laugh. "We didn't forget, Jack. We just thought you'd want something low-key." I looked her dead in the eye. No one said anything. She opened her mouth, but I cut her off. No card, no dinner, no acknowledgement. But Kyle gets steak and a party for his promotion? Her jaw tightened. She glanced at Mom like she wanted backup. Mom cleared her throat. "We didn't know it meant that much to you, honey." I leaned forward, both hands on the table. "It's meant that much for 50 years, but none of you noticed, or cared to." The room went quiet, the kind of quiet that makes your ears ring. Dad shifted in his chair, uncomfortable now. Kyle finally piped up, rolling his eyes. "Dude, no one told you not to buy yourself something. Why the drama?" I turned to him, slow. He had that cocky grin, the same one he wore in every picture. The golden sun, the guy who always got the pat on the back while I got told to be patient. "You're missing the point," I said, straightening up. I picked up the Chevelle's keys from the table and held them in my hand. "This isn't about the car. It's about the fact that for half a century I was the backup plan." My daughter's eyes welled up. She wiped at her face quick, but the tears kept coming. My son stared down at his hands, refusing to look at me. Sharon pressed her lips together, like she had something to say but couldn't get it out. I felt the weight of all of them pressing in, waiting for me to break, to apologize, to soften. Instead, I set the keys back in my pocket and nodded toward the cake. "Enjoy it. That's all you're getting from me." I grabbed the six-pack, turned on my heel, and walked toward the door. The cake sat there in the middle of the table, frosting letters loud and clear, and not one of them reached for it. The screen door creaked behind me as I stepped outside. The night air was sharp, cool. I didn't look back. The Chevelle gleamed under the streetlight like it knew exactly what had just happened. I cracked open a beer, dropped into the driver's seat, and fired the engine up again. Let the whole block hear me leaving. I cracked the window and turned the radio on low. Some old blues track came on, soft guitar and gravelly vocals that matched the weight in my chest. I reached into the glove box and pulled out a cigar I'd stashed years ago. I don't even remember when I bought it, just that I kept telling myself I'd smoke it when the time was right. This was it. I cut the tip and lit it slow, letting the first draw settle deep before I exhaled. Smoke curled through the cabin, mixing with the faint smell of gasoline and leather. The sky out west still held some color, orange fading to gray. I grabbed my phone and leaned out the window, snapped a shot of the Chevelle against that sunset. The chrome caught the last light just right. I opened Facebook and typed, "Built it, paid for it, no permission needed." Hit post. A minute later, the likes started rolling in. Dan again. My cousin Brian. A couple guys I used to wrench with at the Jiffy Lube back in the day. Then a message popped up from some guy I hadn't seen since high school. Jared something. I barely remembered him, but the message hit hard. "You always were the hardest worker in the room. Glad to see you winning." I stared at that message longer than I expected to. Not because of who it was from, but because someone finally said it. I typed back, "Thanks." Took me long enough to stop waiting for someone else to notice. Sent it. I sat there a little longer, the cigar burning slow between my fingers. No one came outside, no one peeked through the curtains. It was fine. I wasn't looking for a crowd. Eventually, I grabbed the cake from the passenger seat, walked inside, and went straight to the kitchen. The house was dark and still. I pulled out a plate, cut myself a fat slice, and poured 2 fingers of bourbon. No candle, no singing. Just me, the hum of the fridge, and the Chevelle keys resting beside my glass. I took a bite of the cake. Frosting was too sweet. Didn't matter. This wasn't about getting even, wasn't about teaching anyone a lesson. It was about finally taking back something that had always been mine, the right to be seen, to matter, without asking for it first. I poured one more drink and leaned back in my chair. Cigar stubbed out in an ashtray, headlights off, no one left to impress. And for the first time in 50 years, that was enough. About a week later, I came down one morning and saw it sitting on the counter. A plain white card, no envelope. Sharon's handwriting on the front. I opened it. Happy 50th, belated. Let's talk soon. No heart, no smiley face. Just that. I didn't touch it again. Left it right there next to the coffee pot. My phone buzzed while I was pouring a mug. Text from Kyle. Sorry if I've been a dick. Didn't mean to overshadow your day. Didn't expect that one, especially from him. The guy spent our whole lives being the center of attention. Now he wants to share the damn spotlight? I didn't reply. Not yet. Later that night, another message came in. This one from Mom. No words in the body. Just a picture. Me at 8 years old. Sitting at the kitchen table in a paper party hat. One slice of cake. No one else in the frame. I remembered that day clear as anything. Dad said we'd do something next weekend. Never did. Below the picture, her message, I'm sorry we missed so much. I stared at it for a while. No anger, no satisfaction either. Just a dull ache behind the ribs, like pressing on an old bruise. I closed the app. Let her sit with that silence. The next morning, I found a yellow sticky note on the fridge. It was in Camille's handwriting. Sharp, all caps, marker ink bleeding a little into the paper. I'm proud of you, Dad, and your car is sick. I took a picture of the note, texted her back right away. Thanks, kid, means more than you know. That reply I meant with everything I had. Things weren't fixed, not even close. But something shifted. You could feel it in the quiet, like the house was holding its breath for the first time in years. Nobody was trying to play it off anymore. Nobody pretending nothing had happened. And for once, I didn't feel like the extra at my own table. The next morning, I headed out early. The Chevelle was waiting, cool and slick under the rising sun. I slid into the driver's seat, turned the key, and let that engine growl to life like a beast stretching its legs. Pulled onto the street and took my time getting to the shop. Windows down, no music, just the sound of power and pavement. When I rolled into the lot, heads turned. Guys from the garage stepped out, wiping their hands, pointing. I caught one of them nodding like he'd just seen a movie star. I didn't wave, just nodded back. I'd earned that. I woke up to the smell of bacon and the sound of Camille humming in the kitchen. Sunlight spilled through the window, soft and golden. And for once, I didn't need to brace myself before getting out of bed. There was a card on the counter, already opened. Camille's handwriting on the front. Happy birthday, Dad. You're one badass old man. I cracked a smile. Inside was a drawing she'd done. The Chevelle in her sketchy cartoon style. Flames coming off the tires. Taped next to it was a $10 gas gift card. It made me grin more than I expected. Sharon walked in, still in her robe, holding a small box. She looked tired, but softer than I'd seen her in a while. This is for you, she said, setting it beside the card. I opened it, chrome gear shift knob, solid and clean, my initials etched across the top. I was listening, she said. No big speeches, no drama, just that. We didn't hug, didn't need to. No party, no balloons, no Facebook announcement begging for attention. Just bacon, a card, and something real. And that was already more than I got for the first 50. Later at work, the guys wheeled out a busted cart with a six-pack and a store-bought sheet cake sitting on top. The frosting was melting a little, letters crooked. Don't say we never got you nothin', Dan said, handing me a beer. I laughed and took it. We snapped a quick photo in front of the Chevelle, me, the crew, the car. I posted it with one line, Year 51, still driving forward. Comments started coming in, some from old coworkers, some from high school buddies I hadn't seen in decades. Even Kyle. Respect, man. I didn't answer them right away. Took the afternoon off instead. Drove the Chevelle north, windows down, wind tearing through the cabin as the engine purred like it was made for this exact day. No music, just the hum of the tires on pavement, the occasional crack of gravel when I pulled off onto the overlook. There was a quiet spot above the lake, no signs, no people, just the water stretching wide and still. I parked, turned off the engine, and sat there with my hand resting on the wheel. I wasn't angry anymore,